Moving right along, our next guest, Tad Jones, Executive Director of the Will Rogers Museum here in Claremore. Tad, good to have you, buddy.
It's great to be back.
Been a while since I've seen you.
I know, it has been.
You gained a little weight, haven't you?
Oh, I'm on a sugar diet, so I'm going to start losing one of these days.
Big things coming at the museum.
Oh, it's so exciting. It's hard to see straight. You know, I've been there since 2014, and last year we've been working on this plan for the last 3 years of wanting to renovate the museum, and this last year, just all the stars aligned. Great work from our boss in Oklahoma City with Oklahoma Historical Society, Trey Thompson, and they were able to get a bond package through the Oklahoma legislature for all the Historical Society, but $7 million are coming to Claremore and the Will Rogers Memorial Museum for renovation.
We're talking serious money now.
We are, and it is a huge impact. This will be the biggest renovation of the memorial since its inception.
Did you know when you took the reins over there, I mean, everybody knows Will Rogers. They know of the impact that he had in this country, but did you have any idea when you took the reins how really big he was?
Yeah, and we also knew we had a lot of work to introduce him to a new generation as well. Because when you're in there and you see the numbers of people that came for just decades to learn about Will Rogers, and I mean, we have people all the time that come in and give us a 5-star. I had no idea he was that big, and we're learning stuff about him all the time. It's just tremendous.
Now this is the way it looks now.
Right. Yep. That wing on the east side of the building was built in 1982. So you had the original memorial was built in 38. We had a new wing that included our theater and some office space and a research library that was built in 1982. And this upcoming renovation that hopefully will start in a couple of years will be, like I said, it'll be the biggest renovation because this is going to solve a lot of issues throughout the museum. We're going to build a 3-story building that will have office space, collections to protect the priceless artifacts, and then the top an event center overlooking Claremore. And then we're going to solve ADA issues. We've got ramps that are like that. And we have a basement that hadn't been open for 40 years that we'll be able to open to the public, and then a new entryway to the museum. And that's going to solve so many problems, but also open up tremendous opportunities. And our foundation, the Will Rogers Memorial Foundation, has put together an aggressive plan to renovate the back porch, to raise money all across the nation to create the Will Rogers World Citizen Experience. And so, the country needs a good citizen role model, how to be a good citizen, and we just feel like there's nobody better than Will Rogers. So we want to renovate the back porch. We want to have this entryway that will be, all the school kids and tour buses come in, and then we want to basically gut most of the exhibits throughout the museum, update them with technology, and when a person comes through, not only are they going to learn about Will Rogers' life, but they're going to learn about his character traits, things that made him the person that he did, that made him respected all over the country and all over the world.
It's interesting to me that this has been a crown jewel, well, ever since I can remember, of not just Oklahoma, but the entire country. Folks came here from other countries as well, just to walk the grounds. And I've always been intrigued by the fact that a lot of folks didn't know that Will and his wife are interred in the basement.
That's right, and several other family members as well.
Yeah.
So, what makes us unique. I mean, it's not just a museum; it is a memorial. It is, it is where Will Rogers and his family is buried. So, all that makes it a very unique facility. So, you can come in and pay your respects to Will Rogers, and then learn about his life.
I will never forget, as long as I live. In fact, I think you were the one that took me down there. When we went down where, the ends of the mausoleum, where it all is, I could not help. I had to put my hands on the cover of where Will Rogers is interred.
Yeah.
I mean, and you feel it. It's like an electric shock.
It's very humbling. It really is. And think about how much he meant to so many people. And you see these videos of after the crash, and they have his, have him laid out and just, for hours and hours, people walking by and paying their respects, and the thousands of people that came to the memorial when it was opened in 1938, and all the money that people gave, and nickels and dimes to help raise money for that memorial. And then the crowds being so big that you had the National Guard standing there to let people in, to kind of, so it wasn't just all packed inside.
Well, it shut the country down.
Yeah.
you know, from what I've read, the United States essentially closed its doors
They did.
in mourning.
Congress closed down, which Will would say was a good thing. The radio stations turned off. The movies went dark. All these things happened, and there was just a tremendous amount of mourning, not just in America, but all over the world. And, you know, we have all these, you know, Western unions from people, from queens and dignitaries and celebrities and regular people that just pay their respects to Will about
Interesting
how big he
thing
was.
about him, with you know, I never met a man I didn't like philosophy of life. He may have been a jokester to some, but he spoke the truth.
He did.
And he spoke it in such a way that even the guys and gals he spoke of with his yarns, if you will, loved him.
Because he never made anything personal. You
Yeah.
know, it was always, you know, he joked about the institutions, but he truly never met a man he didn't like. He had these character traits of appreciation, and that's why we have these character traits that we're going to be showing to people, you know, like enthusiasm, empathy.
Yeah, hold that up
you know,
a little
live
bit.
your
Let 'em
life
get a
so
shot.
that whenever you lose, you are ahead. You know, empathy. This is one of the most, probably one of the most important ones for our country right now. You know, you must not condemn a people until you have been among them and can see their angle. You know, imagine if our country just did that instead of immediately, you know, you're
Yeah.
wrong. Let's take a second and take a look back. You know, integrity, you know, all these different character traits of Will Rogers that we want to share with everybody. And then we want to have a very robust education outreach program to schools. So we're teaching these kids these character traits, and it's not just a platitude that's out there. It's actually a person that lived it. And if we just pick one or two character traits, you know, to try to live our lives just a little bit better, it can make a difference. But Will's just a great role model citizen.
What was his educational background?
He'd say, what educational background? He went to school and got kicked out of schools, but you know, the thing he did learn was how to read, and he was an avid reader. But he went to numerous different schools, and whenever he'd go to one, he'd just want to rope the girls and get demerits. And his dad even put him in military school, and I think he walked out of there with 150 demerits. And so, wasn't a big fan of school because he had so much pent-up energy, and he just went. But you know, but he learned. He was a learner. That's one of the character traits we have is learning. And he said we either learn by two ways. One is by reading, and the other is associating with smarter people.
You know, and you see some politicians today that embrace the folksy, this is the way Will would do it approach to the public. When the camera's on, they slip into that. And in real life, they ain't like that at all. And there's a picture at the museum that caught my attention the last time I was there, where I think he's on the couch, and there's a horse laying on the floor in front of
his
him.
cow, Sarah. It's his cow.
It's
Sarah.
a cow? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
uh-huh.
I mean, where else would you
Yeah.
find that except in Will Rogers'
I
home?
know. There was a pet, you know, Sarah was a pet.
Yeah.
And so they had Sarah the cow sitting there with the whole family right there in the living room, you know. And I mean, his heart was just incredible. His best friend said, you know, that he had brotherly love is what guided Will Rogers, you know, and just had a great heart for people. And that's why, you know, we have this opportunity to renovate this museum. The goal is to have it done by 2026. That's the 100th anniversary of Route 66, also known as the Will Rogers Highway, and also the 250th birthday of America. So we're starting now raising the money. Over the next year and a half to 2 years, we're going to be getting the state funds to come down and begin to break ground, hopefully for the new event center. Once we move our stuff into that and the offices out, then we're going to start renovating the inside of the museum. And when it opens up, I mean, it's just going to be a wonderful thing to share to people about his life. And, you know, he was always cutting edge. And so we want to have a piece of that plus a piece of the same history of that museum that you go in and pay your respects to. And so kind of have that great mixture. But we really want people to see what a good person was like and how, you know, we can do the same thing.
I got to ask you a quick question. Please don't misunderstand what I'm about to ask. Just go with me on this, kind of think with me. A lot of folks think, well, that's Tad Jones. He runs the museum, the Will Rogers Museum. He goes in at 8 in the morning, he goes home at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, that's it. I know better. You're sometimes there late at night. Folks don't realize it, and there's plenty of security, so he's okay. But you're there late at night, and sometimes, majority of the time, you're alone. You ever get the feeling you're being watched or you're being talked to?
It is definitely a humbling place when you're in there by yourself. You know, it's very quiet. I walk in every morning and I walk right by the statue, and you just can't help it every time. You think it's also humbling to think life can be over that fast. I mean, he was at the top of everything when he died, you know, on August 15th, 1935. But also he's looking down at you, and he just has an appreciation for life. And myself and my staff. I mean, we have events in the evenings, and you know, they all have just such a tremendous passion for Will Rogers and sharing him with others. I mean, it's a wonderful place to work. It's kind of a place that's, you know, we're all feel, you know, super excited to be at, and just can't believe we're working for a guy that is so much fun to work for, and it's a great place to be a part of.
Now look here, before this dust all settles on this, I need to get an okay from you on something. Down the road, as it starts to come together, can we do a show from over there?
Absolutely. We would love to have a show from over there.
I'd love to do that if you wouldn't mind putting up with our crew and me for a little while, and let us just sit and talk the way we're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, the partnership we have with Rogers State University is tremendous. We have a film festival that we have every year. The TV station helps us, and we put some of the films that are submitted on RSU TV. The radio station does interviews with some of the directors that come in, and you know, Dr. Rice. I mean, we just partner on so many things with each other, and we have interns over there. I've got a couple of interns that were from Rogers State that worked for us, and one of my employees, Bart Taylor, is an adjunct professor here, and he's also a you know, our Will Rogers interpreter. So he's teaching a class about Will. So the partnership between Rogers State and Will Rogers is tremendous.
We're all out of time. Thank you so much for taking time to visit with us. I'm going to hold you to doing a show over there.
All right, thanks.
That's all the time we have. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.